eBird just released a big update to hotspots with the addition of wiki-style about this hotspot information. This is a feature that people have been asking for a very long time, and in this video I'll give an overview of the new About features, how you can contribute information, and explain how new Hotspot Groups will work. I'm an eBird reviewer and hotspot editor for Maine, so we got an early preview of these a couple weeks ago. I'll share some of the behind-the-scene things that eBird Central trained us on, and a few quirks I've noticed while testing, and tease some of the future updates that will be coming this summer. We have to start by acknowledging this update is largely based on the merging of a separate website called Birding Hotspots with eBird, thanks to alignment of grants and timing at eBird. Birding Hotspots was started as an open source project by Ken Ostermeyer in 2022. Originally just for hotspots in Ohio, but then built out to cover about 43,000 hotspots in 18 countries. With help from regional editors, pages associated with eBird hotspots were built out to include important information like how to plan your visit, how to bird the location, background on the site, and whether features or amenities are available. I suspect it won't be long before we forget this update just feels like a standard eBird feature, but we should take a moment to applaud Ken's effort with the help of software developer Adam Jackson, and of course all the regional editors that built these pages out. eBird acknowledged this wouldn't have been possible without them, and I really want to commend Ken for his if you want something done right, do it yourself attitude here. Having information about a hotspot has been a big problem in eBird, especially when there is restricted access at a site or other pertinent information that you should have before visiting. We've probably all seen these hotspots with long titles or descriptions. Well, we've been seeing useful updates to hotspots over the past few months with the addition of hotspot-specific media for showing habitat and experience photos, and more recently the iconic birds, which helps identify species that are more likely to be encountered there than at other sites in the region. With this new update, those same sections from birding hotspots are being added to eBird hotspots under a new tab called About on the navigation bar, or in the main body way under the recent checklists and recent recordings. Then you can click Learn More about this hotspot to open the full About page. This is one thing I hope they change as this rolls out, burying the About this hotspot section under iconic birds, media, recent visits. Seems like an inversion of what we actually want by not having the most helpful information at the top. Not saying I don't love having iconic birds take up the whole page when I open a hotspot, but it is probably the least helpful of all these sections. On this About page, you're presented with a map, which I'll quickly point out uses Google Maps as a base map, so you might see some funny landmarks like businesses paying Google for advertising. Then you get those sections from birding hotspots. First is Plan Your Visit, which eBird says is everything you need to know before you go. This section provides logistical information to plan an informed visit, including entrance fees, permit requirements, operating hours, directions, parking details, amenities, and accessibility notes. Then how to bird here. Tips and strategies to make the most of the birding experience. This section offers guidance for where to go within the site, including notable trails, key habitats, and important routes or stops. And About this place, for deepening a birder's understanding and appreciation of the hotspot, like a site's history, ownership and management, conservation efforts, partnerships, and additional resources. Then there's a section of About content called Features, which has a set list that can be toggled to yes, no, or unknown. And finally, a section for links to resources like trail maps. This is a super cool addition, but the best part is the community involvement. As mentioned, these are wiki-style pages where anyone with an eBird account can suggest edits to any of these sections. Just click on the Suggest Content button near the bottom right corner of the hotspot map, and you'll see text boxes for each section. There are a couple noteworthy things here. First is the ability to select the language you are using. This can allow for content in multiple languages, which is great so that we don't need to rely on Google Translate if visiting a hotspot in a region with a different language. Within these sections, there are two new tags available. The first is a location tag allowing you to create a hyperlink to a map from the text. This is especially helpful when a hotspot pin isn't located at a place that you should start birding. You can mark a trailhead or a good location, like an observation blind, to go birding. The other tag is a species tag that can be added to any specific species of bird that you mention. This is great because it will display that bird's name based on the user's specific preferences for species name display. It will also help future-proof edits if there are taxonomic changes. You can imagine how annoying it would be to have to update every hotspot wiki that mentions herring gulls after the American herring gull split. This is also where you can edit the features section and then include any notes to the editor that may help them understand your suggestions or edits. This is a good place to point out the process and roles in implementing these edits. As mentioned earlier, anyone with an eBird account can suggest edits. Those suggestions then go into a queue to be reviewed by existing hotspot editors in your region. Most regions only have a few hotspot editors, so eBird has added the ability for editors to add content editing permissions directly for individual users to a specific region so that they can help manage the edits. Anyone with content editing permissions has the ability to directly edit hotspot pages and approve or review pending suggestions. They do not have the ability to manage hotspots, like renaming, moving, or approving new ones. They only have the ability to edit the about information on existing hotspots. So most edits will go into the content suggestions review queue, but eBird has also set up a default auto approval for some of the most active users. They said anyone who is already a volunteer, so current eBird reviewers, or anybody who's submitted over 100 complete checklists in the previous calendar year will have their suggestions auto-approved. You can quickly check how many complete checklists you submitted last year by viewing the World Top 100 list for 2025, and if you are logged in, you will see your number right at the top highlighted in yellow. I'm really curious, or perhaps a bit anxious, to see how this plays out. With over 400,000 hotspots globally and a ratio of about 300 to 1 of hotspots to editors, eBird is going to be flooded with content and need a good way to manage that. Enabling editors to build a team with content editing permission is a great new addition, and I could imagine this could lead to a future build of being able to add more regional reviewers for eBird records. I am a little worried about the auto-approval process though. They say it is less than 20% of active eBird users that fit this requirement, but that is still a lot of people. And it is only going to take one bad eBirder with more than 100 complete checklists to post something unhinged on a hotspot page. That said, eBird has made sure they can remove permissions or completely block users that violate rules, or as they nicely put it, anyone who makes not helpful suggestions. Before moving on, the last point of the review process I want to add is to please be patient if you suggest an edit and don't see it approved right away. I bet editors are going to be slammed with dozens, if not hundreds, of suggestions when this launches, and it is going to take time to review all of those. Remember, like eBird reviewers, editors are all volunteers, and it may take some time to get to your suggestions. It feels a little cruel to be launching this in April because I know I'd rather be out birding than approving notes on bathroom availability and parking lot access for hotspots in my region. Okay, moving on. The other big addition with this update is the introduction of Hotspot Groups. These are for when you have 2 or more hotspots that share the same general geographic location. You will see those sub-hotspots listed under a parent hotspot. This solves one of the bigger problems with hotspots, where you had a series of sub-hotspots, but also a more general hotspot for a larger area. Using these general hotspots would often mean birds were not being plotted in the right areas or appropriate habitats, making the data less useful. Now, having a parent hotspot that aggregates these sub-hotspots will encourage people to submit more precise data, and we get a better understanding of the whole hotspot. The folks at eBird Central mentioned that many users prefer seeing their information at this higher view, so aggregating it for them from the sub-hotspots will hopefully encourage better data collection while giving the users the outputs they want. Here's an example of a hotspot group at work. I'll look at Parker River National Wildlife Refuge, which on the parent page shows the new Hotspot Group pill. Clicking on that shows a map of all the sub-hotspots and links to each of them. There's also a pill noting the hotspot has entrance fees, which is coming from the features section of the About page. Since Hotspot Groups aggregate data from all the sub-hotspots, you'll see those all showing up here. Under Recent Checklists, you'll see recent submissions from all the sub-hotspots, and even if people are still using the parent hotspot. Even viewing media from the parent shows content from all the subs, which is nice. There are a couple important things to note with Hotspot Groups, like only hotspot editors can administer them. I suspect that most of these will be built out upon launch of this feature, but some will take time to be added. I know we're going to have fun debates about what should be a sub-hotspot or not. Like, I'm trying to build the Scarborough Marsh parent right now, but I'm sure that there are some birders that might not consider the Scarborough River Wildlife Sanctuary a part of the marsh parent because the habitat is so different. Or it'd obviously include the Scarborough Marsh Pine Point hotspot, but not the jetty that is only a quarter mile away, right? Maybe this is obvious, but worth clarifying that any hotspot can only be under one parent. And in a very interesting move towards encouraging the use of sub-hotspots, eBird will be making some parent hotspots unavailable to submit data from. They've stated that any parent larger than 80 kilometers squared will no longer be displayed as a recommendation location or nearby location on the map in eBird Mobile, essentially forcing people to pick a sub-hotspot. These large parents will still show up in Explore and in data, but you can't submit new mobile lists from there. And this is a good place to transition to why these updates are important. Data quality is the most important thing for eBird, and these updates help ensure that on multiple fronts. As we just discussed, encouraging users to submit more precise data is huge. This makes checklists more consistent across users, ultimately making it more valuable and useful for tools like status and trends. And the better someone understands a site, the more likely they are to use the right location. Having the About page that explains where people should go and when will help them choose which sub-hotspot to visit and how to collect data there. I'm really looking forward to having more information at these sites available for new birders. There are so many unofficial places people go birding that can be really intimidating for a new birder to access without help from someone else. Like, do you remember going to your first wastewater treatment facility? These can be really tough to know where you can and can't go, but now we have a reliable place to get this information. And I really want to encourage people to refer to the Birdability Site Review checklist when you are making suggestions and plan your visit section of a hotspot, so you can provide the most useful accessibility information. I'll wrap this up by mentioning a few future updates at eBird Central teased. Most of it will be behind the scenes for hotspot editors and content editors, but we can also expect to see 3-level groups coming in the future, so having a grandparent level hotspot added. This won't be very common, but for huge areas like some national parks, it makes sense. They mentioned building out contributor acknowledgements on the About pages, which at launch just says sourced by eBirders. And the last thing they mentioned, though might be much further out, was that users will certainly want to be able to add their personal locations aggregated with the hotspots. We kind of have this feature with patch totals, but then you only see your data. They acknowledge that if, or when, the tool comes, this update with aggregating hotspots is building the foundation for the path to get there. Okay, that's it. Go check out the hotspot updates, suggest some edits while you're there, and then please be patient with your local editors as they try to get through it all while hopefully also getting to go out birding themselves. I hope you find this overview helpful. You can help me out by subscribing to this channel. And as always, thank you for watching.